Hi there, my name is Joe Young and this is The Living Room. You know, I live here in Florida, South Florida, and we just escaped a hurricane, or what could have been a hurricane. And we're feeling very lucky and fortunate that didn't really do that much to us this time. And so part of me feels like a little bit like the weather reporters that are standing right after a hurricane just flies through. And that's me wearing my jacket. And so we're here in the middle of November looking towards Thanksgiving. We've been talking a lot about gratitude. Last message, I really wanted to encourage you all to think about being grateful for things that set us back. What's it teaching you? What's the pattern in life that's been knocking at your door? Like, hello, look at this, learn from this. And so it's a way to be grateful. It's not the most pleasant experience to have setbacks and things happening, but it's a way that we can be grateful, because if we've declared that we want to be people that grow, which I believe we all do, conscientious people want to grow, then it helps us endure life in a sort of different way and sort of have victories over even the harder moments of life. So today I wanted to define a little more about what it means to be a growing person. You know, we also talked about yesterday that really the point of religion and the point of religious teachings is to better ourselves. And that, sadly, organized religion throughout many centuries they lose this point, you know. It's not a pleasant thing, but even beautiful, you know, teachings, beautiful scripture, beautiful inspiration, people being healed and transformed, then sort of morphs into something else. And we kind of get lost in our rituals. And today I want to talk about that a little bit. We really want to hold on to this end goal, that where we really are trying to go as human beings is to become people of true love, to become people of unconditional love. And another way to look at that is to become people who have a parental type heart or love for all people. Right? We have that sort of heart for our own children, those of us who are parents. And we know this example. I've given it many times on other, church services. But like the mother that's, whose son has, let's say, done a little bit of jail time or maybe committed some crimes, she doesn't throw that son out to the waste, to the side. She might say, he's a good boy. He's only done a little bit of prison time. Seeing the best in her child. And I can tell you as a father, my daughter is 3.5 years old. There's just so much sweetness in this age right now, this 3 years old, that I see this potential in her. And I can imagine, even if she makes a mistake later on when she's 20, me as a father is going to still see that 3-year-old underneath, thinking, I know she's a sweet girl. I saw it. I saw it from my own eyes. But as she grows through life, she may be influenced by things or have some moments of immaturity and bad judgment, like I did as a teenager. So I want to just throw that out there, that to have that heart of a parent is really a beautiful articulation of what it means to be a loving person, a completed person. There's a great quote by Sun Myung Moon who says, we want to become people who draw no line. And what that means is, even the most conscientious and moral people out there have a certain line that they may not cross, right? Well, I love my family, or I love my neighbors, or I love my church community, or maybe I even love the homeless or further and further out, but there might be a line somewhere. People who practice like the most horrendous things, may not have any compassion. But guess what? All people are children of God. So God is loving all those people with the parental heart. So we want to become people who draw no line. We don't have this ending point in which we're like, well, I can forgive this, but not this. And there's a line in which we just go off the cliff and our heart is stopped. It's a very beautiful image. How do we become people who don't draw a line? That's really quite a journey of growth, wouldn't you say? That seems almost hard to fathom. for me as well. But we got to remember, especially this being a faith community that we're building up here called the Living Room, that religious doctrine is really only as good as you live it. If you have a lesser understanding, let's say your doctrine or your idea of theology is less complete, less developed, but you live it more fully, your spiritual quality is going to go higher than somebody who has a wonderful doctrine with all kinds of detail and very developed, but they don't live it. Living it is the key. It's the key goal of spiritual teachings. So we here, the Living Room, we're building a faith community from the scratch here, with just a few of my buddies helping me start it up. It's an awesome journey so far. I can't wait to see how this goes. We got to just remember that we're here to use faith to get us better understanding, which then gets us to better ourselves. It has to go in that flow. It has to be for that end result, that end transformation, healing, forgiveness, confidence, altruism, selflessness. These are the real qualities we want to see in each of us. And we definitely want to pass that on to our own children, do we not? I mean, those are the qualities. We hope to be super dad and super mom, don't we? So the stronger faith is to bolster this kind of character and spiritual development. So, the problem is that a lot of times in a religious context that we see that, well, the pastor says go to the event, the pastor says go to the Bible study, the pastor says go to church every Sunday, so I do it. And it's not a black and white thing. It might be helpful to have a perfect church attendance for 20 years. It actually might be helpful. But it might not be helpful. In fact, it could even become a stumbling block to growth. Sometimes we get so secure and so self-assured that we're doing all the things that we were told to do. And then in our mind somewhere, there's a little switch that says, well, I think my growth, I'm done growing. I'm as good as it can be because I did all the things that were required of me. And it becomes a blind spot that actually Satan can use, because he would rather just cap you off at good churchgoer, right? He's kind of probably okay. It's like, as long as you don't become super, super powerful, right? You're just minding your business with your attendance and this kind of thing. So this has been going on for thousands of years where people kind of get a little too hung up on the conditions, the offerings, the rituals, the attendance, and they think that their growth is done. So just because you may have a great theology, you might have a perfect scorecard of attendance, you may not actually be in that journey of becoming who God has destined you to be. How do we really know who God has destined us to be? We got to remember to be a little humble here. We cannot see our full potential. Just like, I love my daughter, but I'll just point out that she cannot see the full potential of what her life could become. I could see her being, an astronaut. I could see her being a world famous comedian or a screenwriter. I could see her doing all these things. She could probably not even really fathom what those things are at this point as a kid. And that's like us and God. He could probably see us being incredible things, and yet we're kind of just used to what our realm of possibilities is in our mind. There's sort of a limit there. And I just want to encourage you to look at it this way. Actually, our expressions of faith can kind of become superficial. Like, I dragged my physical body to the prayer group. I dragged myself through the physical act of praying for 21 minutes. I did it. But there's actually a sort of superficial, sort of outward feeling to that. Whereas the real journey is very invisible. That's what I'm here to articulate. This checklist mindset actually could leave us with a lot of blind spots. And I'm definitely can say that I have suffered from this. I thought, well, as long as I'm becoming a better musician, that I'm doing what I got to do, not realizing there was a lot of compassion blind spots in my heart. We may not have any compassion for people who don't have as good a scorecard as us. Or, I've used this example before, but I found it humorous that it's very hard to be compassionate for a lazy person. It's like, well, you need to work harder if you want results. We don't really take the time to feel compassion for what is it about their spirit that doesn't have as much fire to work harder. We don't want to get in their shoes and figure it out with them and hear their story. So we don't have compassion for certain pockets of people, and we're not thinking about it. That's a blind spot. A lot of times I know that we could have blind spots in our relationships. So we might be doing our spiritual practice as good as we think we can, but our relationships around us are suffering because maybe of some part of it is our flaws contributing to some problems in our relationships. So I really want to encourage, I'm just trying to set a framework for the living room. Yes, we are a faith community. We're going to talk a lot about God and spiritual growth, but I want to bring it back to substance, right? The substance is to actually become a person of bigger heart, bigger love. And so I just want to reach out to everybody because whether you grew up in a religious environment or not, I think this is a really exciting and important journey for us all to better this world. I think a lot of us, if you're like in my situation, I guess, we grew up in a more religious environment, and then we sort of feel turned off or burnt out by, well, a lot of great talks or a lot of great sermons, but we don't see enough people walking it, right? And so there's a pain that comes with that, an abrasive feeling. But I'm kind of here to say that actually it gets a little nuanced here, because part of our journey will be to accept all of those people that may have hurt us in the past. Think about that. There might be some actual truth to, hey, these religious folks don't walk the walk. They only talk the talk. There might be a lot of truth there. But I want to invite you to go on the journey with me, where actually part of our journey is to love even those folks with the heart of a parent. I'd love to give you this story. I heard about a minister. I never met him personally, but I heard about this church minister that had a very powerful dream, very vivid dream. And there was a knock on the door in his dream. And he could sort of see beyond the door, and behind the door was Jesus. And then he looks a little closer, and he looks over Jesus's shoulder, and he could see that behind Jesus was more people. So he's simultaneously kind of reaching for the door handle to, of course, welcome Jesus in. Then he realizes behind Jesus, right behind him, inches behind him, was all the people he hated most. And this dream, it's like if he woke up before he opened the door, he woke up with the feeling of, if I open this door, I'd love to let Jesus in, but I'm going to let all these other people in as well. And that's a perfect image. If we're going to be like Jesus, Bible says Jesus was the firstborn of many, right? We're striving to be that quality. If we're going to let him in and really that quality become our quality, we're also going to let in all the people that really rub us the wrong way. And we're going to have to find a way to love them, accept that they are at where they're at, and hope for their betterment from a good-hearted place. I think this is an incredible journey of the heart. So that's going to require us I'd like to take the baby step. I'm not far up this path, by the way. Not far up the path at all, but it is a journey of the heart, and it requires us to take on forgiveness. It requires us to take on healing of ourselves. It requires us to take on the responsibility for our actions and our past and our feelings. And sometimes that person that's hardest to forgive is ourself. So we have to take a heart inventory and take this time to meditate, take this time to pray, and think about what is our path forward. So through faith, we can find the direction in life, we can find a purpose, we can find strength, but then it will help us, and let's use the living room as a forum for this, help each other take the steps on that path. So let's do both. Let's do faith and substance. That's the goal. Thank you, brothers and sisters. God bless.